Castro with the Partners and Citizens podcast, and hopefully you listened to my episode from last week on, as this, was the Trump AI image, kind of the watershed moment for evangelicals. Got some good feedback on that episode, and may not know this, but I have been an avid subscriber to the Economist magazine for several years. If you don't know much about it, it's a weekly magazine. It's mostly, from a British perspective on world events. And some of the articles in the back of the magazine is kind of organized by different regions of the world. United States is one, and then the Americans, which is like Mexico and Canada and Central America, and then they have Middle East and Africa, and then Europe, and then Britain has its own section. Then it also has some business articles, some articles on science and culture, book reviews, recommendations, and then some international articles. And this is actually, I wanted to talk about a topic that actually broadens further into businesses, but also churches. This is an article focused mostly on the prime minister election in Hungary, where Viktor Orban, who's been in power for 16 years, he's one of the few European leaders that President Trump likes and has raved about. But he has been known kind of in the European world as kind of a corrupt leader, a strong man, and he is... This new election coming up, he is the opposition. Peter, I'm going to pronounce this in a Hungarian pronunciation, but it's instead of Magyar, it's Magyar, Peter Magyar, Magyar. He's the opposition leader who is really a threat to Viktor Orban's power, so much so that Trump sent J.D. Vance over to claim that Viktor Orban was a kind of defender of the... actually going to read the quote here. He is a defender of Christian civilization. It's a big term that our vice president makes in Budapest on April the 7th, kind of supporting Viktor Orban, who, again, which is kind of interesting because he's known as very much a corrupt strongman in Hungary. And that's actually kind of the crux of the article, that due to the decline in the economics in Hungary and decline in democratic values in Hungary, that many of the kind of the wealthy, the scientists, those who have like high degrees and are leaving the country. They're immigrating. Young, up-and-coming young professionals are leaving Hungary and moving to the Netherlands or other parts of Europe, even into America. And the political slogan of the opposition leader is saying now or never. Basically, if we don't kick Viktor Orban out now, then he'll never leave, and we'll be under his power, his rule for until he dies. This kind of idea. And so there's kind of this idea that this is like, if we don't win this election, if Viktor Orban wins, then there's no point in staying. And so the article is titled "When Immigrants or Immigration Helps Bad Rulers Survive." And actually there's a book coming out by Justin Guest, who's a professor of policy and government at George Mason University. He's writing a book that explores links between global migration rates and an erosion of democratic freedoms in many countries. And so basically the idea is that some of these immigration that we're seeing around the world a byproduct of bad government in which they're leaving. But the issue is that if more and more people immigrate out of the country, who are maybe opposition, who had been opposition supporters of the opposition in the country, did that actually help the ruler? Because less and less opposition and criticism is actually leaving the country. And so would it be better for them to stay and to fight and to speak out and to protest, and would that be actually better for the government long term? And by people departing, they actually help bad rulers survive. Um, and the reason why is like I've said, is that if people are to leave, um, they organizations that resist against bad rulers leave. There's now less people voting against that bad ruler, less people speaking up, and less demand to change. And actually, by leaving, pressure is removed from the system. It weakens the opposition and leaves behind a population that feels more isolated, more dependent, and more afraid. And so, looking at that article and thinking through that, one of the terms that is used is brain drain, and by more opposition leaving a country, the nation kind of its brain power drains, its opposition drains, and it also affects the economy, because if you're business leaders and you're young professionals, if you're doctors, if you're lawyers, your entrepreneurs, if they leave the country, your professors or teachers, if they leave, then it leaves the country with less doctors, less lawyers, less entrepreneurs, less business owners, therefore less jobs, right? So it creates that issue, and hence the brain drain word is helpful in illustrating the consequence when people immigrate out of countries because of bad leaders. And we think about this, we think about, like, why do people leave churches? And I think it's a similar dynamic of people get tired of being squeaky wheels. They're tired of fighting. They're tired of leadership constantly getting their way, and constantly pushing out opposition, and voices that speak in opposition or contrary to the wishes of leaders. And so when you get frustrated, you do you keep speaking out, or do you just simply leave? Do you keep challenging the system, or do you leave and build something else somewhere else? Like, do you go to a different country and build a new life there, or do you leave your church and go to a new church and build new friends and new ministries there? And those are the two options. Do you speak up, or do you leave? And especially if you're, again, a young professional, you have leadership potential. People gravitate to you. You're just not going to be one of these people that's just going to sit on the fence, right? You're not just going to sit and do nothing and just let things go by, and just kind of turn a blind eye, and just be ignorant of what's going on. That's just not in your nature to do so. So your two options are to speak up or to leave. Do you continue to ask hard questions? Do you continue to confront lies or misdirection or manipulation? Do you continue to appeal to other leaders who will listen? Do you call for transparency? Do you organize with others to make appeals, or you just leave, right? Or you just kind of pick up your stuff and go elsewhere? And I think leaving makes a lot of sense. Frustration and hopelessness, and believing there's no way to affect change, kind of, you just seem like, well, what's the point? So leaving becomes a pretty favorable or very attractive option to you. And I think where it gets sad is, and I think it's what the article brings up, is that bad leaders actually increase their standing when good people leave. Because with a nation in particular, again, they can blame those people. Well, they didn't fall in line. They didn't respect my authority. They're the problem. We're going to be better off without them. We're going to be more unified without this, contrarians and those who just want to just to speak for the sake of speaking, or just want to be against ideas because that's what they do. They're divisive. Um, they're not aligned with our vision. Um, they weren't really committed to the cause. And again, we're stronger without them, right? We're more unified without them. We're more one without them. And again, it actually provides a pressure release for leadership. Um, and so they never really have to face the problems because there's less people opposing them, right? And they can kind of, through propaganda, they can speak to the masses and say, well, they're the problem and we're not the problem, and the people can believe that truth and come to say, yeah, I guess they are the problem, and never really hear the true story. So the people that typically leave countries, churches, are usually the people that are most needed in these situations. And we need people who are willing to listen and willing to speak up, and willing to articulate arguments, willing to organize proper opposition when reform is needed. And so that actually creates a healthier situation for the whole group, the whole institution, the whole country. Actually, by them leaving, it creates more unhealth for the institution or the country or the church. And they typically, what even happens, are the most faithful people to these groups, right? They volunteer the most, they give the most, they are willing to organize volunteers for things. They're usually the ones with the good ideas and are well motivated. So they typically are the most faithful people that are the most frustrated and the most willing to immigrate out and to leave. Um, and so it's more than just someone leaving, not just one less vote or one less resident or one less person paying taxes or one less person attending a church service. You lose wisdom, you lose courage, you lose discernment, you lose institutional memory. And you may actually lose people that would be great counselors and aides to people that are the most vulnerable. And so typically the wrong people leave. And that actually does bring the nation down, the institution down. More dysfunction actually is birthed because you don't have these individuals in the midst. They're not speaking up and pushing for health and pushing for ethics and pushing for justice and pushing for fairness and pushing for opportunities for all. Those people that are overlooked, those people that are preyed, actually that situation grows when good people leave. And then as a byproduct, again, the culture becomes more compliant towards bad leadership, more accepting, more supportive of bad leadership. When fewer critics are there, oppositions becomes thinner, and this becomes a huge, massive issue for countries, for businesses, institutions, and also for churches. And this, and I think it presents an interesting byproduct, where you would think when you remove opposition, you'd have more unity. But actually, what you end up having is just more silence. It seems like there's unity. It seems like there's peace. But really, what there is just silence. And people are afraid. People are unwilling to speak up. And they see that, a few people that they knew are no longer there, that they've moved on, they've packed up, um, and people become more afraid to speak out, more afraid to ask questions, and to um, press on leaders to explain themselves. Um, and of course, bad leadership is able to utilize this to basically create their own story because they're the one left, right? They're the one that get to articulate the narrative and the story because those people have left, right? They're no longer there, and so the leaders now has a great opportunity to present um, really the enemies of the state, enemies of the nation. They weren't happy here. Um, they wanted something different. They struggled with authority, right? They didn't respect authority properly. Um, they were divisive, right? They were a problem. They slowed us down. We were less successful when they were here. Um, they didn't get their way. They wanted a certain way things were done, and because they didn't get it, they left, and they didn't want to be here anymore. And that can be true at times, and people leave for bad reasons. People can be divisive. People can exaggerate concerns. These things do happen, but I think what ends up happening, especially with countries, is that with Orban, as we think about Hungary, there's corruption in the government, there's mismanagement of funds, there's economic downturn, and he's unwilling to listen to opposition. He's unwilling to listen to criticism and the comments for these reasons, and so the issue still remains the same, right? Those people leaving doesn't solve those problems. Those problems remain. Those people maybe were trying to help the problem, but you were unable to listen to the problem. You didn't want to be confronted with truth. And those concerns remain. And those issues remain constant. And so this is the situation that arises. And you think about the individual people, and you can make the argument it'd be better if you stayed. It'd be better if you remained and continued to speak up and continued to fight and to stand for the cause, and these leaders will prey on your absence. But it is true. I mean, there's a point where it's hopeless, right? It's not fruitful. There's no results and fruits from your opposition and your fighting. Um, and so people have to make decisions, right? They have to make calls that's best for them and their family. And what do you do? And, in the article, it even makes a comment that when families do leave countries that have bad leadership and bad rulers, they will work in different countries and actually send money home. And this actually doesn't help the problem either, because now the country really never has to solve problems that are happening amongst their people. The people are actually less willing to protest because they're being supported by their families from outside. And this can even happen amongst people in the church. They leave a church situation, they leave bad leadership, and they still kind of want to help. They still want to support their friends and support the people they're leaving behind. And so maybe they'll continue to give to the church, they'll continue to volunteer and be involved in different projects. And their friends still feel like they're around, still feel like they're um, involved with them, and so they are less likely to continue the kind of criticism and pressing leadership to confront mismanagement or being confronted with bad leadership. And so, what does a person do in a situation like this? What do they do when they're in a situation where they see bad leadership, they see people not willing to confront truth or be confronted with truth? What do they do? Do they leave? Do they stay? What do they do? And I think it's important, to to seek wise counsel from people you respect on what to do in these situations. Someone outside the system, someone that you can speak with and ask their opinion and get their wisdom on how best to do this in a loving and biblical and godly way. Um, I think it's important also to, what do you stand for? Like, what are your principles? Are they biblical principles? Are there principles that God cares about? Are they just preferences that you have? Like, if going back to the church, perspective, if you don't like a church because you don't like their music, that's a kind of a preference thing. There's nowhere in Scripture that argues for a certain style or certain songs that should be used in service. If it's a Bible translation type of decision, things like that, or the color of the carpet, like those are preferences. We're talking about like of biblical principles of leadership, biblical principles of honesty and truth, and valuing and the dignity of people. These are all biblical principles, not just simply preferences. So be careful, like you don't fall into that trap. Um, and I think it's how to speak to authority properly is not easy, and having those conversations are not always the most comfortable conversations to have. People get very defensive. But I think when you don't want to spread gossip, and gossip is not truth telling. We want what's best for people. We want people to live out the gospel. We want to walk according to the gospel in unity. And I think confronting leaders on these principles is key, and being very biblical and staying grounded in God's word and not getting stuck on, again, preferences, especially because that's not fair. No one is called to obey preferences. They're called to obey Scripture and biblical principles. And so I think that's important to walk in truth, walk in the light, and try to be helpful. But I think what we're seeing, especially with Hungary and other examples, is leaders refusing to listen to um, statements that are being made, getting very defensive, and somewhat being very protective of themselves, and not really caring about the bigger principle, which for a nation is the people, and that the people live in a society of fairness and justice, and that their leaders defend that. When that no longer becomes the purpose of their leadership, it becomes more about their wealth and their power, less about the people. Well, that's an issue, and it definitely needs to be spoken, and leaders need to hear that, and they need to confront that truth, especially when there's evidence of the truth. And so when you're a leader and you're being confronted with this opposition, when you see people leaving and immigrating out, is the assumption that every departure is rebellion, or that every critic is divisive, or every wounded member is bitter? Is there an assumption of, a quiet, peaceful church is a healthy church? I think that those are the questions that are not helpful. To assume that people leave because they're rebels and they don't, fall under the vision of the leader is not a good way to evaluate the situation. Are you approachable? Do you listen? Do people feel safe bringing their concerns to you? Are people confusing loyalty to the leader to loyalty to Christ and the Word of God? Are you protecting the people? Or are you more concerned about your stance and your power? Do you like to say you want accountability, but really refuse any kind of real accountability. And this speaks to, like, again, leadership identity. And I'm going to talk about this in another episode next week on the American male identity. And I think this is really wrapped up in this idea. All American males are impacted by this. Is, what is your identity? What is your security in? And I think for leaders, especially, I think this is like across the board. National leaders, business leaders, institutional leaders, church leaders. We wrap our identity so much in what you can see, right? Attendance, um, you know, election victories, economic numbers, supporters at a rally, uh, business sales for the quarter, uh, what your social media platforms, how active it is. We get so wrapped up in these things because they're so tangible, but they don't speak to the heart, and like what is truly valuable is the virtues of the heart, right? Which, for the sinful man only comes through faith in Christ, right? Fruits of the Spirit. Do we really value those things, or do we value um, those tangible things I mentioned? And I think that does present. I was recently not criticized, but was asked to do something, and at a moment I got very defensive, right? It was like, well, why don't they like that? Who's in charge? But the more I thought about it, it's like, am I approachable? And if someone has a complaint, is it valid? And there are parts of it that were valid, and I think even one mechanism was easy to do. It was like, we could do this, and this would help. We'll think about doing this instead of that. And it wasn't the initial plan of mine, but thinking about what's the best for them and what are some manageable, solutions to the problem. I think this is a manageable solution. I think this is a proper, compromise on the issue. I'm not getting everything that I want, but nor are they. And, we're kind of meeting halfway in the middle. And I think that, like, at the end of the day, my identity is not tied into this thing. My identity is tied into what Christ thinks of me, which is I'm one of his followers. I'm one of his disciples. I'm one of his citizens of his kingdom because of my faith in him, and that is who I am, and not in who I am as a leader. And I think if more leaders thought that way, what's best for my people? What's best for their interests? How can I help them? Then you would then present yourself as far more approachable. You would welcome criticism, because again, at the end of the day, the group is what's best for the group, not what's best for the leader. I think too often you see leaders thinking very, I'm the leader. I know what's best. I know what's best for the people, and so therefore get out of my way and let me lead. And what ends up happening is that you have a bunch of really good people, very faithful people, leave your leadership. And what's left is just a bunch of quiet people, silent people, who are confused. And they follow in silence, and not with joy, but with silence. And the institution itself becomes weaker for it. I think there's a lot you can learn. What's going on politically. I think there's a lot to learn that applies to what we see in the church as well. And I think it goes back to, like, what is really the mission? The mission, we try to talk about this often in Partners and Citizens, the mission, the partnership. We partner in the gospel. We partner to bring the gospel to the ends of the earth. We partner together to bring the gospel to the lost. We partner together to disciple God's people in his word, to teach all that Christ has commanded. We partner in that. That's the mission. God has a mission, and God has a church to accomplish his mission. The church itself does not have a mission, and leaders do not have visions and missions. God has a vision. God has a mission, and we follow that mission and vision. And I think if we were far more honest with that approach, I think if we had opposition and criticism, we would state that up as the mission and the vision, and then be approachable when we maybe drift from that, or our strategies for doing that or don't go well, so we're not evaluating them and saying, is this the right way to do this? And maybe we should change the way we do it so that we accomplish the mission that we're set out to do. And I think this is all proper and why God has called leaders to be in the positions to be leaders, to be able to do that. And I think Christ is a great model that we see in Scripture. I love the book, Gentle and Lowly, in that Jesus is lowly in the sense that he's approachable. And as a parent, I want to be approachable, and I've struggled at that and failed at that. Am I approachable? Do my kids feel comfortable coming to me and talking to me? Do churches have congregants that can approach their pastors and say, I don't know if I agree with that. Do you mind listening to me out? I think that is so good and healthy. It actually does build a healthier church. That's why, we stated a lot about the core belief in congregationalism in the church. And I think that's very healthy. I think it's gotten a bad rap over the last few years of kind of like mob rule. But I think what you see is that when you see a congregation that loves the church just as much as the pastor does, and is willing to speak and say, what are we doing to strengthen this church? How can we improve the church? How can we come together and teach God's word together and evangelize our community together and send mission money and people and resources to the end of the earth for missions? How can we do that together? And I think congregations get awry with their values and what they think is important. I think it's a job of a pastor to bring them back to the center on that, and to do that with a lot of effort and a lot of toiling, because hearts are folly, and Christians and non-Christians do foolish things, and to be able to convince fools to do what is wise is not easy. And churches can be taken over by foolishness. Pastors can be taken over by foolishness. Governmental leaders can be taken over by foolishness. We talked about that last week with the President Trump AI image. Fools. We are surrounded by fools. And God's word is wisdom to the fool. And we have to listen to wisdom. And we have to be persuaded by wisdom. We have to listen to wisdom. And sometimes the best people in our countries, in our government, in our nations, in our institutions, in our churches are wise people. And we need to stop and listen to wisdom. And I think that's, and I would encourage people, if that's where God has you, if he has you in a nation where you have to speak up, and God is calling you to stay, like he called Bonhoeffer to go back to Germany during the war, during the Nazis. If he's calling you to stay in your church and to be faithful and to preach wisdom to folly, then Godspeed on that. And definitely be praying for you as you speak to folly with love and compassion, but with truth and devotion to wisdom. And for those who've chosen to leave and you feel like your wisdom is ignored and your wisdom is no longer welcome, I pray for you as you leave and you find new situations. But the same calling remains. You must use your wisdom God has given you to help those in folly and to speak up to those who are falling into foolishness. So this has been the Partners in Citizens podcast, as we again talk about missions and politics, and church leadership and faith. Hopefully you continue to listen. If this is helpful, if you find that this is good, please share this with other people, and love to have your support. You can go to our website at partnersincitizens.org and see some